The old man at the hardware store never asked for help. Wore the same flannel. Bought odd parts, tubing, wires, even solder. Everyone thought he was a retired electrician. Until the day the town's power grid crashed during a blizzard, and only one house still had lights, heat, and radio contact. His. And when the sheriff arrived, the old man simply said, "I've done blackout runs before, Baghdad, 2004. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to like the video." In Fairview, population just under 4,000, everybody eventually saw him. The man with the wire spool cart. He'd roll it into Jasper's Hardware every Thursday, pick up a handful of items, pay in cash, and nod once to whoever held the door. Didn't speak unless spoken to. Always had a list. Always exact change. Kids called him Cable Grandpa. Teenagers joked he was building a spaceship in his basement. Adults? Most assumed he was just another old-timer keeping busy. He lived in a one-story home 2 miles out of town. Nobody visited. Mail piled at the box, but his utilities never missed a payment. He had no listed family. Just one name on file, Walter Reed. Nora, who worked at the diner, said he tipped exactly 20%, always in cash, and never ordered dessert. Sheriff Riley only ever saw him twice, once at the county registration office and once helping jumpstart a stalled truck on Main. Quiet guy, the sheriff said. Polite. Didn't say much. But one Friday in late January, Fairview's grid failed. Heavy snow. Frozen lines. Transformer explosion upstate. No power. No heat. No phone signals. No backup. Cell towers froze. Landlines dead. The storm hit harder than expected and stayed. Sheriff Riley coordinated with the fire department and school to open emergency shelters. Generators sputtered, and fuel was limited. By midnight, temperatures dropped below zero. And that's when something strange happened. A faint radio signal, coming from the edge of town. The fire captain picked it up on a backup scanner. Simple Morse. This is Reed. Shelter open. Heat stable. Safe entry at barn's side. 40 beds. Solar backup live. The captain blinked. Reed? They dispatched a deputy to check it out. When he arrived, he found Reed's home fully lit. Warm. Quiet hum of power. Inside, cots. Space heaters. Bottled water. Packaged rations. Even backup medical supplies. And Reed, setting out blankets like he'd done this before. We can take about 40, he said calmly. More if we stagger warmth cycles. The deputy didn't ask where the supplies came from. Didn't ask how the solar array on the roof was still functioning during a storm. He just radioed in. You're gonna want to see this. By dawn, families were arriving on foot. And the man with the wire spool cart stood at the door, guiding them inside one by one, checking pulse, temperature, issuing ration packs with the precision of someone who'd done it in places far harsher than Fairview. Still, no one asked. Not yet. By midday, over 24 people were inside Reed's house. Most stayed quiet. The warmth alone made them grateful. Kids napped on cots near the solar battery unit. Mothers sat on folding chairs sipping broth. A retired mechanic named Dennis helped arrange supplies. No one argued. No one raised their voice. Reed moved through the rooms with silent rhythm, checking battery levels, rotating heaters, scanning handheld instruments that looked too advanced for a man with no visible internet. Sheriff Riley arrived in person. He'd expected chaos. Instead, he walked into a room that felt like a mobile command unit, except it hadn't moved. You prepared for this? Riley asked. Reed gave a soft shrug. I've seen colder. You military? Reed paused. Used to be. Riley waited for more. None came. They spoke little that day. But later, Riley noticed something. Reed's old television wasn't just for watching storms, it was running diagnostics. Displaying power flow diagrams, grid frequencies, comm relay signals. None of it should have worked offline. Reed noticed Riley watching. Backup protocol, he said. Modified after '04. What happened in '04? Reed replied, power died. People didn't. That was all. By evening, word spread. Reed's home became the unofficial safe zone. The school generator failed. So did the one at the volunteer firehouse. But his stayed on. Always. Casey Lang, a local blogger, got a tip and arrived with a camera. Reed didn't pose. Didn't speak on record. He just nodded once when she asked, "Why are you doing this?" Because someone needs to. She took photos of his setup. Later, when she posted the article, a veteran commented, "That's Wally Reed. He ran blackout recovery for the 3rd Infantry in Baghdad. kept evac hospitals alive when the whole sector dropped. The post exploded. Others replied, I saw him build a grid out of car batteries. Reed could fix a sat feed with coat hangers and a radio. We called him Ghost Light. Wherever he went, the dark stopped. Back in town, people started whispering. Who was he? How did he end up here? Why hadn't anyone known? Riley stayed the night. Not to monitor, but to learn. And before turning in, he watched as Reed placed a small steel case beneath the solar control panel, labeled in fading paint. FOB Viper, Iraq, 2004. Field Reserve, do not remove. Riley didn't ask, but he slept deeper than he had in weeks. If you've ever known someone who doesn't talk about what they've done, but shows it when it matters most, type silent service in the comments. By Sunday, the snow began to ease, but no one left Reed's house. Not yet. It had become more than a shelter. It was a heartbeat, a place where people felt calm without knowing why. Even the kids stopped asking for Wi-Fi. They watched Reed work, asked him how the battery stayed warm, why the lights didn't flicker. He answered every question like a teacher with infinite time. But when one boy asked, were you a soldier? Reed paused, then simply said, I helped keep lights on for the ones who needed them. That was all. Curtis from the fire department arrived with his wife and 2 sons. He pulled Riley aside. I know that man, Curtis said. Well, not personally, but I served in Fallujah. We had a blackout after an RPG hit our generator. Whole base went dark. We thought we'd lose the hospital tent. He pointed toward Reed. One guy rerouted the grid using spare antenna wire and a Humvee battery. Never saw his face. Just called him Ghost Light. Riley blinked. That's what the vet online called him too. They both looked at Reed, who was helping an elderly woman adjust her heated blanket like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. Riley finally asked him, You really Ghost Light? Reed kept adjusting the blanket. I don't own names anymore, he said. They're heavy. By nightfall, nearly 50 people had come through. No one complained. No one questioned his leadership. It wasn't the heaters or the cots. It was the way he moved. Like he'd done this in war zones, refugee camps, and villages without names. Because he had. At 2:07 a.m., a transmission hit the backup radio, one only Reed heard. Encrypted. Old school. His format. 3 words. You still watching? He stared at it for a long time, then typed. Always. He powered down the radio and stared out the window. Snow still fell, soft and unbothered. But something in the air had changed. Curtis noticed too. You think someone's testing him? He asked Riley. Maybe, Riley said. But I don't think they realize he's still active. Just quiet. That night, someone placed a folded napkin on the porch. No signature. Just 4 words in block lettering. You saved us all. If you believe some missions don't end when the war does, just change their shape. Type mission continues in the comments. Because some veterans never clock out. They just keep helping quietly. The snow cleared by Tuesday, but people stayed near Reed's house. Not because they had to, because they didn't want to leave. There was something reassuring in the quiet hum of his systems. The way nothing ever failed. The way he answered each question with calm, as if he had prepared for every scenario 5 times before it happened. Principal Grant from the elementary school arrived, asking Reed if he could help review the school's emergency plans. Reed nodded, took a pencil, and began drawing a layout entirely from memory. You've been there? Grant asked. 3 years ago. Walked the perimeter. Weak spots in the ventilation. You never said anything. No one asked. Later that day, Nora, the diner server who'd always noticed Reed's exact tips, brought a basket of warm bread. She saw him outside, adjusting a solar inverter. You planned all this, she said. Prepared, he corrected. For this exact storm? For something worse. Always worse. She hesitated. You were in Baghdad? Reed gave her a long look, then opened the barn door and gestured her inside. Beneath the far workbench, hidden under boards, was a military storage truck. Inside, laminated maps, communications protocols, solar schematics, rescue flowcharts, satellite printouts, all marked. FOB Viper, Ghost Light Ops. He handed her a folder. Inside was a photo. Young Reed. No beard. Desert gear. Standing beside a massive generator with field surgeons working under halogen beams behind him. I kept lights on, he said, so they could keep hearts beating. Nora stared at the photo. Why did you come here? Reed closed the lid. Because Fairview didn't ask for stories. Just help. That's all I wanted to give. That evening, Curtis checked the grid. One transformer had rebooted, but the signal from Reed's house stayed stronger. Not just electric, personal, relational. By then, someone had painted a sign on plywood and propped it near the road. Safe zone, ghost light ahead. Reed didn't acknowledge it, but he didn't remove it either. At dusk, a convoy of veterans arrived. Not official, not called. Word had spread through networks the internet doesn't see. They shook Reed's hand. One left a dog tag on the porch. Another brought a thermal blanket from a base in Colorado. No speeches, just quiet recognition. The kind that doesn't ask questions, because it already knows the answers. If you've ever witnessed a moment of unspoken honor, where words failed, but understanding filled the room, drop a salute in the comments. Those moments define the best of us. Wednesday morning brought more than sunlight. It brought a knock on Reed's door. Not a neighbor, not a veteran. A woman in a dark coat, holding a briefcase. "Mr. Reed," she said, "I'm from the Department of Infrastructure Recovery. May I come in?" Reed studied her face, then opened the door without a word. She stepped inside and looked around. At the solar hub, the converted inverters, the emergency ration layout, military precision, down to calorie rotation. "You built this alone?" Reed said. "No one does anything alone." She handed him a folder. Inside, a request. "Assist in federal winter response training." "Your name's been flagged," she said. "Someone leaked footage. Your systems. Your radio grid." Reed sighed. "I don't want attention." "It's not about media," she replied. "It's about teaching others what you know before we lose it." He didn't answer. Until she said, "They're calling this the Reed model now. Small-town survivability." That night, Reed stood in the barn again, hands resting on the edge of his old trunk, staring at a second folder he hadn't opened in years. Operation Whiteback. Reassignment offer, 2010. Declined. He whispered to himself, "I walked once. Can't do it again." But then he turned and saw Nora, watching. "You okay?" she asked. "I thought I'd buried this part of me." "You didn't bury it," she said. "You built around it." Later, Sheriff Riley and Curtis came by. They brought a group of high schoolers, curious, alert. Reed gave them a tour, showed them the inverter, the backup charger, the radio loop. One asked, "Where'd you learn all this?" Reed looked at him and replied, "I learned to protect before I ever learned to speak about it." That line stuck. One student posted it online. A captioned photo of Reed beside his humming panels. The post read, "Not all protectors wear uniforms. Some wear wire gloves." By midnight, it had 40,000 shares. But Reed didn't notice. He was already packing a kit. Not to leave, but to teach. He placed the same schematic he once gave Nora into a plastic binder. Wrote in marker across the top, "If this fails, you don't." And below it, "Memory is a tool. If you believe some legacies aren't written in medals but in blueprints and in the lives they touch, type build to serve in the comments." By Thursday, everyone in Fairview knew his name. Not because he introduced himself, but because someone spray-painted "Walter Reed saved U.S." on the side of the county snowplow. Nobody erased it. Principal Grant invited Reed to speak at the school. He declined. So the students came to him. They sat in a half-circle in his barn, cross-legged between storage bins and cable spools. Reed stood at a whiteboard he'd salvaged from the old fire station. No notes, just stories. "How do you keep things running when the grid dies?" one asked. "You become the grid," Reed said. He showed them the basics. Energy flow, radio etiquette, thermal balance. The same things he once taught under blackout tents in Baghdad, with mortar fire in the distance. But this time, no guns. Just curiosity. Curtis stood at the back, watching. He leaned to Riley. "He's teaching them how to last longer than the system." Riley nodded. "Maybe longer than all of us." That night, another knock on Reed's door. This time, it wasn't government. It was someone Reed hadn't seen in over 20 years. "Charlie?" Reed asked. The man nodded. "I saw the article. The photo of the barn. Thought, no way, that's our ghost light." Charlie stepped inside, handed over a folded piece of cloth. Desert-worn. Faded patch. Engineer, ghost unit. Reed unfolded it slowly. "Didn't think I'd see this again." Charlie looked around. "You rebuilt a FB in the middle of snow country." "Didn't rebuild," Reed replied. "Just kept the lights ready." They sat together for hours. No TV. Just silence. Memories that didn't need repeating. Before he left, Charlie turned back. "You know what you did here?" Reed didn't respond. Charlie smiled. "You proved we're not just stories people forget when the war ends." Some men live quietly until the storm comes. And then the town remembers why silence matters. If you know someone who changed your life not by what they said, but by what they built, type thank you for staying in the comments. On Friday, Fairview held its first full-scale emergency drill in decades. Led not by the sheriff, not by the mayor, but by Walter Reed. They called it a resilience walk. Reed didn't march. He guided. Quietly. He moved through each checkpoint, town hall, fire station, school, testing comms, backup batteries, exit routes. No clipboard, just memory. At the diner, Nora handed him his usual coffee, extra hot. You realize the whole town showed up because of you? Reed shook his head. They showed up because they remembered what matters. The mayor tried to hand him a plaque during closing remarks. Reed stepped back, said one sentence. Give it to the kids who stayed curious. That night, Nora found a gift on her doorstep. A wrapped bundle of cords and diagrams. Inside, a note. You kept watching when others stopped seeing. Down the street, someone repainted the snowplow graffiti. Neater. Permanent. Fairview's lightkeeper. Riley left a comment under a national post that featured Reed. He didn't save us with tech. He saved us by believing preparation is love in another form. Curtis added, he trained this town like a squad. We just didn't know until the drill. That night, at the edge of town, two teenage boys installed their own weatherproof solar rig on the school roof, based entirely on Reed's schematic. They didn't ask permission. They didn't get in trouble. Reed found them, helped them adjust the panel angle by 3 degrees. Said, good instinct. Better math. Before he left, one of the boys asked, Mr. Reed, what did you do before all this? Reed paused. Everything I'm doing now, just with less snow. Have you ever met someone whose quiet example shaped the way you prepare, think, or lead? Tell us in the comments. Some mentors never call themselves that, but we know who they are. Saturday morning. No ceremony. No ribbon. Just one quiet sunrise over Fairview. And Walter Reed? Gone. His house wasn't empty, just unlocked. Inside, a binder sat on the table. Labeled. Local Protocols, Revised. Next to it, a note. If the power goes again, you won't need me. You've already become the grid. He didn't leave a number. Didn't take a bag. Just walked into the frost-lined hills behind his home, like a man who didn't need roads to stay connected. Curtis found the binder. Showed it to Riley. They passed it to Nora. By sundown, the mayor declared the document official town policy. They didn't name the law after him. They called it the Fairview Response. A quiet system. A living legacy. The kids keep the solar angle adjusted. The teachers keep extra flashlights now. The sheriff carries a portable radio, just in case. And once a month, they test the signal from the old barn. It still works. Have you ever known someone who didn't just help others, but taught them how to help each other when they were gone? Say their name in the comments. The best teachers don't leave, they last. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let YouTube promote stories of kindness.